I had a very disjointed culture at my mortgage bank.
Mm-hmm.
Parts of it were good, parts of it were bad. It was the way in which we hired. And I had a partner who had the similar drive as I did in regards to wanting to make money, but our values were completely different. I'm a value-based person. Like, I believe in inspiring, educating, and bringing people up. And he had the completely opposite piece where, as I was doing this over here, he'd come in and just beat the shit out of somebody and walk out of the room. So it was bring them up, put them down. It was like a yo-yo effect.
This is the real estate investing experience. We get it. Real estate can be rough sometimes, and that's why we bring in the experts to talk about the experiences you won't hear anywhere else with your hosts, John Cohen and Chris Grinzik.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Experience. I'm your host, Chris Grinzik. With me, as always, John Cohen. How we doing?
We're good. Getting a little stir crazy. A lot of podcast recording, but when the world comes to a complete shutdown, it's you got to figure your shit out. But we're good. No, I got no complaints.
Yeah, I mean, we closed our only deal we had under contract, so now what is there even to do? Might as well do podcasts, right?
We got to get this deal sold that we're trying to sell and trying to play a little fuck you with the seller. So it's buyer. I'm sorry. So we're gonna have some fun.
No, for sure. We got a really great guest on today. Another one of the speakers for the event we're doing. This episode will be out after the event, but I'm almost positive, if not certain, Charles is going to have the recorded version available for everyone to go listen to. The event is called the Long Island Real Estate Revolution. You can go check it out, lirealestaterevolution.com. I'm going to have 8+ speakers all day Sunday, April 19th, talking everything from wholesaling, flipping, tax deeds, multifamily, to a whole lot more. And our guest today is going to be covering a lot on the wholesale end, maybe some other stuff, not really sure, and we'll find out. But with that being said, Billy, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you guys, Christopher and John. How you guys doing?
Doing good, bud. All things considered. Can you quickly just kind of introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, your background, and kind of what you do?
Sure. So Billy Alvaro, we have an office in Long Island, New York. Easy Sell Property Solutions is the entity that buys properties, and Max Returns Real Estate Investments is the entity that raises cash. Been doing it full time since July 4th, 2009. Prior to that, I was in the mortgage banking world. I had a pretty large mortgage bank for about 7-8 years. I was taking that company public, grew that to about 1,000 units a month, 950 employees, 42 states. The market went bust back then, as did I. I ended up going from the height to the bottom, where it was $14 million in debt or close to it. And it took me about 6 years to get out of that disaster. It was a struggle, similar to what we're going through now. But fast forward, I get into this business because I had no choice. I had no cash, no money, no credit, and I was $14 million in debt, and I didn't know how I was going to bring revenue back in. And I always wanted to do this full time. And so July 4th, as I was drunk and on drugs and popping pills because I was dealing with a lot of shit back then, it was an eye-opener. And I said, I did it once, I could do it again. There's a whole story we won't get into now with what happened. But I had a shift in my mindset, and I got myself clean. I got myself clear and focused. And I didn't know how I was going to do what I was going to do, but I knew the what and I knew the why. And the what was real estate investing, and the why was because I had no fucking choice. I was on the balls of my ass. And but I didn't allow the how to hold me back. And that's, a lot of the stuff I teach, systems and strategies and tips and tools and secrets on how to do this business. What I found with everybody that I coach and mentor and just chat with is that they can know the whole entire blueprint, but there's something inside them that kind of holds them back from actually implementing. And if they do implement, they get afraid as soon as they make that one mistake, and they kind of keep themselves in that one, that comfort zone of really going to the next level to do what they're able to achieve in life. And I found that mindset thing is the key, that if you can break through that, listen, everything you do, I do, it's a process, it's a system, it's learnable, it's a skill that you can learn. But this thing gets in the way of just about 95% of the people that are out there in anything they're going to do, not just in the fields that we're in anything.
I tell people that all the time. I say, there's the only difference between you and me is that I took the action. I didn't. If I made a mistake, you get back up. But I tell people, I do my job. If I'm helping you out, and I think everyone needs some help in real estate, and you can do it by yourself, but it's fun to do it with people. But I can take you to the cliff and I can push you off, and you'll probably be successful. You'll probably figure it out. And I'll be there if you are about to smash into the ground to bail you out or say, don't do this or whatever. But people have so much more knowledge and education than they believe they do. And they just want that one more book or that one more special formula that's going to figure it out. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And you just got to get over that, that fear in between your head, just do it. I tell people the best thing you can do is buy something and fuck it up and lose the money, as long as it's not, an earth shattering amount. But, Billy came back from a significant amount of money down. So, if people say you don't want to lose 20 grand, I think that they can get over that. And I'm glad you brought it up, because you're coming from a totally different position of, completely changing, where you were to where you are, which is awesome.
Yeah. It's people can't be afraid to fail. You have to fail often, fail frequently, and fail forward. And so if you nailed it before, what you said, John, is a lot of people, all they want to do is find that next thing to study or to learn. And all that's really is they're afraid to take action. They're afraid to take action because they're fearful of failing. Because if they fail, what if? Who gives a fuck what if? What if? What if? What if we get a virus and everybody's shut down for 3 months? What if, man? I mean, shit happens. This is the reality. We can't cry about it. Like, I do feel for people out there that are struggling right now, because listen, there's hardworking people that can't work. They can't pay their bills. I know they're not probably listening to this because we have a lot of real estate investors, but even the solo practitioner real estate investors who have 8 or 9 rehabs that are going on and they're completely shut down. They have no money coming in, no money to put out. They're like, what do I do? You'll get through it. Like, it's going to pass. You're going to get through it. You're not going to die. It's going to be a struggle, but it's going to make you so much more of a better person, a smarter person, a tougher person to go on in life to make the next 10 years a run. And then there's going to be something else that happens. Yep. This is life, guys.
I was going to say, probably the failure of 2008 has probably made you significantly more successful in the last, 10 to 12 years, whatever it's been, than you would have been if your, mortgage business had gone public, everything had gone great, you'd made a ton of money. Probably wouldn't have done nearly as much business or as well if you shifted into wholesaling because of that. Do you agree with that or no?
Yeah, I think what I gained out of that failure, that massive, massive failure, was a Harvard degree in how to become successful. Because I didn't learn anything when I was growing the business and we were skyrocketing and doing 1,000 mortgages a month and raising all sorts of capital. There were no real lessons. I believe the lessons in life always come when you fucking fail. When you fail hard, even if it's a small failure, you have to learn what worked, what didn't, what are you going to do differently? But don't sit back and worry about it. Pick yourself up and take action to get to the next level. When I get into this, I do wholesaling, I do renovating, I do buy and holds, I dabble in your space. Like, I believe if you have a business model in real estate, you have to have a focus. And my first 7 years in this business, I didn't lose focus. All I did was renovate and wholesale. It took me 7 years to start buying and acquiring single families. Then it took me another 3 years to get into the space you're in. Some mixed use, small apartments, but I'm not a master at it. I didn't want to take my focus off of what I was doing. A lot of guys in this space, what they do also is they have that red shiny object. They'll go to a course and they'll do lease option. They'll do subject to. They'll do tax lien. They'll do apartment investing. They'll do mobile home parks. They'll do storage facilities. Like, if you're going to get into the space, pick a niche that you're going to focus on. Become the absolute expert in that niche. Like, you have to master it before you even think about getting into the next avenue. Like, I set this company up to where it was, before the pandemic hit, automated, systematized, fully functional without me being there. Now the shit hit the fan, I stepped right back in. Like, I'm working my ass off all over again. But before this happened, I was literally working 10, 14 hours a week. That's it. My company was up, it was running. It's a well-oiled machine, but it took me years of literally setting the foundation, putting up the walls, like putting this business together so it could function without me. A lot of guys in our space, or business in general, they're control freaks. They feel as if the business is not going to run if they're not there. They have a fucking job. I don't want a job. Mm-hmm. I want a business that serves me so I can go out and enjoy life, whether it's 5 years left or 20 years left or hopefully 50 years left of my life. I want to be able to enjoy. And when I started that mortgage company, I was so locked up and in my office 18 hours a day and flying around the country. I loved it, but I had no fucking life. And this time around, it's not just about making money, it's about lifestyle as well. And so I set the whole thing up to really serve me and serve my people. And I have a great team. You can't do it without team. You can't do it without systems. You can't do it without processes. And as we all know, you can't do it without deals, and the lifeblood of deals is marketing, and the whole thing comes around. It's like it all fits together, you know?
Exactly. I think the thing that you touched on that people have to hear, and this is probably the biggest battle I have with individuals, is that people want to go to a course and come out and press 4 buttons and have the whole business set up. And no one wants to work 5, 7, 10 years to set that foundation so the business can run with you, not in it. And that's the problem. Maybe it's the millennial mindset or the younger demographic, whatever it may be, but people don't want to put in that effort today. Everybody wants to hit the easy button and hire a virtual assistant and, have this running and have that, but they don't realize that foundation, if you don't know how to do each part of the business, or you've done it, hiring someone to do it for you and you don't know what you're doing, you don't know if they're doing a good job or not. 6 months later, you're sitting there like, why don't I have a deal? Well, it started because you didn't want to pound on the pavement. You didn't want to do it yourself. And that's probably the hardest thing that, I come across when people say like, oh, you don't have a system for that. It's like, no, I do have a system for that. I've built my system, but there's no easy button. You can't just download some app that's going to do it for you. And that's the part that, I think that you just spoke about really well, is just, you put your time and effort in, and now you can scale back 10, 14 hours, enjoy yourself. And early on, money motivates a lot of people, but that as you get further in your career, Chris spoke about it the other day, and I say all the time, there's a risk for those high volatile returns. And the value that what you have to do to get that, it's not that easy. But as you get through it and you build the systems, now you can enjoy yourself. And you take some of the risk off the table because you say, I don't have to do that deal today. I could pass on that one because my system's running and I know there's going to be another deal in the future. And that's the part that people fail. And that's why people have that signing object syndrome, because like, oh, you know what? I did lease options and I couldn't do it. So I'm going to do tax deeds. So it's, oh no, wait, this isn't working because it's not easy. I'm going to do this. And I think that's the part that people don't focus on, is, pick something and do it for 5 to 10 years. Then you can say, okay, it's running. If I want to go do something else, I can focus on it. I can explore it because I know this is still doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with across the board, everything you just said, John. Everything you said was purposeful. Like the push button profits that all the gurus online, they're selling because when the sex sells, right? So push button, you don't have to work 4 hours a week. It's going to be done for you. Like, it's not real. It's not real. You have to work. Eventually, you can set the business up where it's working for you. But in the beginning, to your point, you need to work and you need to know your business. And the thing I fucked up on when I had my mortgage company, my sales and marketing far outgrew my operations. I had great sales and marketing because that's my background. I'm a natural salesperson. I know how to market. But if you don't have the systems inside to facilitate and get those deals through, you're going to implode. Mm-hmm. So, and I didn't know operations. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I hired people who I way overpaid them to do the job, didn't do the job the right way. And when I failed in that business and I took this one on, I said, I'm going to take my time to set this thing up. I'm in no rush. I'm not racing or going against anybody. I'm going against myself. And it's all about what I want to accomplish in life. It's not about being the biggest or the best. It's not about making the most money. It's about what's going to serve me in my life. I love money. Don't get me wrong. I love making money. I love doing deals. I love succeeding. I love the fight and the win of things. But I also want to make sure that I'm able to sleep at night where I don't have all this undue stress on my shoulders for no reason. And that happens with a disjointed business when you just didn't put enough thought into systematizing your company the right way so it's there to serve you. And I know you guys do this because you have how many units under management? 2,400?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now, right about 2,400. Hopefully we sell some more and that goes a little bit lower, and then we can pick up some more when this ends or when this, when people want to bail. But yeah, no, you need to be able, and we're working on that every day. I mean, there's things that we do that we try and implement. It's like, this is working well, but what can we do better? And that's the thing that people, everyone wants to be the pinnacle and everyone wants to be, the Bill Gates and the Warren Buffetts and the Jeff Bezos. They want to be the top out of the box, and they realize that you got to work on that stuff every day. Yeah. And that's the thing, we're doing it now. We're taking this time because, as Chris mentioned, we closed on the deal in the midst of this on Tuesday.
Congrats.
Right now, there's not much going on realistically, So right now we're taking this opportunity to build out, whatever systems we have, what can we do better? How can we implement it better? How can we deploy what we're doing now better? So then 6 months, 12 months, 3 months, whatever it looks like, it just runs smoother. And that's what we're using this opportunity for.
Yeah. So quickly, you touched on something briefly, and I want to explore it a little bit more. You talked about bringing in someone that was experienced and paying them a ton of money to build out your operations. And that sounded like it was the old mortgage business. And then now you went the other direction. Can you touch a little bit more on what happened with the other way of doing it, where it went wrong, and then how you've been able to build it slower, build it yourself, and then, I'm assuming outsource it onto other people in your team?
Really good question. So back when I had the mortgage company, I honestly didn't know what I didn't know. Like, I couldn't even work on a computer when I started in the mortgage industry. I had no idea how to do a fax machine. Like, I was not an office guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bartender. Like, I was a police officer for a little bit. I was in the Air Force. I was not an office person. So the learning curve for me, I had to put a lot of pressure on myself to understand how to sell, how to market, how to grow. But the operational side, the mistake I made is I didn't know how to hire the right people. I didn't have a process or a system for attracting the right people, for taking them through my hiring funnel, for questioning them the right way, and for making sure they're going to be a good fit, not just to do the job, but the culture piece as well. I had a very disjointed culture at my mortgage bank.
Mm-hmm.
Parts of it were good, parts of it were bad. It was the way in which we hired. And I had a partner who had the similar drive as I did in regards to wanting to make money, but our values were completely different. I'm a value-based person. Like, I believe in inspiring, educating, and bringing people up. And he had the completely opposite piece where, as I was doing this over here, he'd come in and just beat the shit out of somebody and walk out of the room. So it was bring them up, put them down. It was like a yo-yo effect. And it hurt us. When I got to the point where I realized I needed to bring in people to run that part of the business, because I didn't have systems in place, I made the mistake of throwing money at people, thinking people would fix the system. And all I did was increase my overhead, and I never got the productivity out of them. I didn't get what I should have gotten out of them. I made a lot of mistakes. The hiring process was one, the culture fit was the other. The fact that I didn't hold them accountable to certain things. I mean, I did, but I didn't. And it was really just bringing on the wrong people and having them in the wrong seats. I learned not what to do. And this time around, if you ask anybody that's been hired inside my company, they had to jump through a lot of hoops. They had to, I had them weed themselves out. The ads that I put out, how I had them jump through the process to see if they could just follow simple directions. Like, I used to get 300 applications for a position back when I had Global. And when I first started doing this business, I had 175 people for my operations department. But out of the 175, only 10 people followed the process before they even got to me. So 165 people completely wiped themselves out from going through because they couldn't follow simple directions. And the 10, the cream of the crop, rose to the top. And those 10, I was able to say, okay, they followed, they responded to the ad. In the subject line of the ad, they said, hey, Billy, this is why I'm perfect for the operations position. In the body of the ad, they said, okay, I had them write down why they think they're perfect. Attach your resume to the response. Call this 800 number and tell me in your words why you're perfect. So I had them do 4 things just to even get on the phone with me. And then, of course, if those 10 people, if the 165 didn't do not one thing right, they were automatically eliminated. Mm-hmm. So if you can't follow simple directions, that's the first thing with coming into any organization. Put your best foot forward from the beginning. Now I'm left with 10 people. Then I would look at their history. I would look at what they did, how they did it. Then I would say, okay, let's do a simple phone call over the phone. If they didn't have a personality over the phone, if they didn't have the right culture fit, they were out. And I would take that 10 down to 3. And from those 3, I had the ability to choose the top person to come inside your organization. Go back when I did it at Global, I outsourced it. I had headhunters do it. I wasn't basing it off of the values. They had a good background, but I never really checked the references the way I should. I was young. I was aggressive. I made a lot of mistakes, and I did not have the right team around me to get my company to the next level. And I have to take full responsibility because I was the guy in charge, but I didn't know what I didn't know, and I failed and I fucked up hard. But you learn as you grow. You learn as you go forward.
Yeah, I think tremendous amount of stuff to unpack there. So I think anybody listening just got a ton of stuff. I think, the alignment of interest from the top down is massive. I think that's something I've learned a ton about in the last few years, that, if you've got 2 different horses pulling in different directions, the cart's not going anywhere. So I think that's hugely important. I think the way you just broke down the hiring process is not something I have personally heard of before, but it makes a ton of sense. Because if, you're looking for one thing and you're looking for someone that's detail oriented and can take on instruction, that's a really good quote unquote test for somebody to have to go through to weed themselves out. And they can't even do that. They're not even going to be a good fit. I am curious though. I've heard more and more people talk about the hiring process as impossible to know whether that person is a good fit until they actually come on, because everybody puts their best foot forward when they're going for an interview. And it's not until someone's been working there for 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months that you kind of start to get a real feel for who they are. Do you agree with that? Disagree with that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So there are certain tools and tests that you can give people, that we give people in our organization prior to them coming in. And so there's 2 different personality profile tests. And off the top of my head, I can't think of either one because I haven't done it in a bit. And now it's to a point where somebody in my office is actually doing this for me. But they still jump through hoops. Mm-hmm. Once they jump through the hoops, as they make it to the cream of the crop, we then take them through 2 specific personality profile tests. And then from there, I have a professional guy that I have on retainer that he interviews them. This is all he does. He's able to get into, read their profiles, read their resumes, and interview them for an hour to an hour and a half and weed through the bullshit. So is it 100% perfect? Absolutely not. But what you want to do is you want to get yourself to the highest point of saying, hey, this person, I think they're going to be the best fit. There's always a chance that they got through. Mm-hmm. But if you take them through all these different channels and all these different levels, and you're having other people who are pros, interview them, and then you bring them in for the finals. And what I used to do as well, one thing, I'd want to see how people reacted to normal people. So I would bring anybody who was at the last final stage out to lunch. And I would purposely have something with the waiter or waitress. I would have them do something purposeful, fuck up their lunch, give them the wrong order, spill something to see how that person would react. Because if they're going to be a fucking asshole to the waiter or the waitress like that in an interview with somebody they're across from, what are they going to do to a client over the phone? How are they going to handle that with another person in the company? So you could tell, you could do certain little tips and tricks and games with people without them realizing, to have them give their normal reaction. And then they usually would catch themselves and they'd be like, oh, you could just tell a lot, man. It's just little things you could do. But the personality profiling and the having somebody who does this for a living to interview is going to weed out and catch even the ones that rose to the top. It's going to catch because there's going to be inconsistencies that person can do. I'm not a great interviewer. I know what my strengths are. I'm great at vision. I'm great at sales. I'm great at marketing. I suck at everything else. I became good at setting up systems, but it's not my forte. I get like jammed up with it because it takes me too much time. Everything else I've now learned in the last 15 years, get the absolute best, pay them well, and have them figure out how to make it happen and report back. I didn't do that back then.
So if I'm hearing you right, and it's funny, you started answering the question I had in my head was, how do you build those things up if you're not good at them? So if I'm understanding it correctly, you're basically saying you started building it up, and then when you got to a stage where you could afford to bring that person in, you kind of gave them the reins and said, hey, go figure it out and report back, and then let's figure this out together, but I'm leaning on you. Is that right?
So depending on the situation. So regards to the hiring piece, I just went outside and figured out in my network who's the best person I can outsource the final piece of the hiring so that I don't get myself in trouble. Going back to something more internal, my team yesterday, I have a young kid Joe, who's doing my disposition part of the business. And he's been with me for a year, but he's still kind of new at it. I gave him a project and I said, figure this part out. So I had him go through and figure out 75% of it. Then we came back and we had a meeting. He showed me, and it only took me 15 minutes to go through and tweak what he did to get to the next level. Now we're about 95% there. Mm-hmm. So I've learned I could delegate, don't abdicate, delegate responsibilities out. And then the biggest thing that I see entrepreneurs doing, I was definitely at fault for this, is you want to inspect everything that you expect. So if I'm going to delegate something out to somebody, I'm not just going to give it to them, say, here, run with it, and then never check up on them. I'm then going to check in, figure out what's going on, hone in on what's happening, and then give him, because my experience now, dude, I'm 25 years in, I could pick up a situation, identify a problem, and come up with a solution like this, where it might take somebody else 2 fucking weeks and they still might not be able to figure it out. So my talents now are going into operational, sales, any type of issue that's happening. Give me the information that's going on. Don't give me the details yet. Let me ask you the questions, and quickly we can then solve problems and take things to the next level. And I've done that yesterday. I mean, I don't know if I'm going all over the place because that's
go for it. No, I think that's really interesting because I know for me personally, and I think it applies to a lot of people, when I try to figure something out myself instead of someone telling me how to do it, I learn it significantly quicker and it sticks way longer. You know, if it's trying to figure out how to, figure out the renovation costs for an apartment, or, figure out how to, submit an offer for a property, you do your own research, you probably spend more time than it would take for, somebody else to tell you how to do it. But when like you said, you have basically mini failures because the first couple of things you look at are going to be wrong. Even if you don't get to 100% and that person can then bring you up towards it, I just think that person is going to learn it significantly better and it's going to stick. So maybe it takes a little bit more time up front, but I would assume there's less lag time for that person to have it down pat, and you don't have to check in nearly as frequently or in depth, for the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months, I would assume.
Yeah, I think you're right on with that. The one thing I would say, though, is there's so many different systems and programs that are out there. Like anything we're going to get into, instead of having somebody on my team try to figure it out, I invest. I'm like, here's this process, learn it, figure it out, get it to a certain point, come back to me, and we'll brainstorm. We'll have 2 or 3 people brainstorm, and we'll take what you've gotten and learned, and we'll take it to the next level. And I just think that if you do that continuously inside your organization, everybody elevates. And to your point, Chris, you can't do it for anybody, because if you constantly do for others, what the hell do you even have a business for? You have to give them responsibility. You have to hold them accountable. You have to make them learn it. And then you have to make them implement and fuck up. Like Joey fucked up. He did a couple things wrong. And I'm like, I would do, why did you do it this way? And he told me his thought process. And I said, think about what you're doing. What's the objective? And as he thought about it, talking with me, I saw the light bulb go off in his head, and he learned. And it's at that moment, he just grew. He just elevated himself to the next level. Instead of me telling him what he did wrong, I made him think through it, and he figured it out. And that's how you grow your people.
Yeah, I'm sure verbalizing it too. I know, like, a lot of times I'll have a thought in my head, and as soon as I start speaking it, sometimes even halfway through I'm like, oh, wow, that was dumb, or that was totally wrong. So I'm sure the process too of like doing it and then verbalizing it to somebody else probably fixes a lot of the problems or issues, without even having to do it, because you thought about one way, you did it, and then as you start to verbalize, I'm sure that irons out a lot of the kinks before they even become issues.
So you guys are 100, you guys are partners, 50-50?
No. So John is partners with Don. I work right underneath him.
Gotcha. Okay. And so are you more operational analytical, Chris?
Yes.
Okay. I see it. And John, you're more sales, marketing.
Yeah. I'm very similar. Like, I could come into a situation and say, okay, this is what we got to do to fix it. And that's what I'm really good at. And more on the, sales, marketing, Chris will do more of the analytical underwriting, hey, take a look at this. I'll say, yeah, no, good deal, bad deal, whatever. But you nailed it.
Yeah. Cause I see Chris is my cousin Wayne. He's very similar. Even your disposition, I could sell, you're organized and look at your apartment, like shit's in order. Like I fucking have it.
Oh, this isn't mine. Mine's usually way worse. This is my mom's place. That's the only reason it's organized. So if you want, I'll take the laptop into my room and you'll quickly change your opinion. Yeah. No, I normally live in Brooklyn. I got the hell out of there. So
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Good move.
No, but besides that, you're right. Besides the organizational piece, you're 100% right. No, I'm definitely way more.
But it was also when we brought Chris on, I said, hey, here you go. This is how I learn. Yeah. Here, read this, do this, underwrite that, and come back to me. And so he went through that process of, okay, here you go. And then I looked at it. I'm like, okay, you did this wrong. You did this right. This looks better. And then if he doesn't know somehow, what does it cost to put a floor in? Okay, this is what it typically costs. But going through that process, and I love to do that, say, hey, here's the task. Come back to me with the answer, because then I could say, okay, why do you do it that way? And their answer, like you said, when you could see someone's light bulb go off, like, oh shit, okay, I get it. Or, okay, you did it this way, but look at it that way. It's like, oh my God, you're so smart. And it's like, no, I'm not that smart. I just done it before. I understand that. And putting it through the process, I learned by doing, right? I can read all the books in the world, but it's not going to retain. My wife reads books and I look at it sometimes. I'm like, how do you remember? Like after you flip the page, like I forget everything. Like I gotta physically do it.
Yeah.
But and that was really good because I've given that task to other people. Say, hey, here, do this. Come back to me, because when you go through it once, twice, 3 times, and then someone says, no, do it this way. I think that works. It doesn't work for everybody, and I understand that. But that's been as Chris mentioned, it was really helpful to learn by doing, because then when you come through the other end of that, you can put it together and you grow. As Billy said, you elevate yourself. So you're like, okay, I've been through that situation before. If it happens again, I know what to do.
Yeah.
So because it was interesting, you brought up something I was going to ask of, it doesn't always work for people. Have you ever, Billy, come into that experience of where you try to implement with somebody and they're just very uncomfortable, or that's just not really how they learn and you've had to change it? Or do you feel those people are getting weeded out through your hiring process, that you are getting the people that are like-minded, similar, and do thrive in that kind of environment of learning?
Yeah, I think to the second point. So right now, the team we have, I have an A team. I have 9 people on staff. It's small, and every single one of them across the board, I'm looking at them and I'm like, luckily, we're in a financial position that we can withstand this for the next 14 to 16 months. But we had to look at the whole business and say, if this thing got real bad, and we made major cuts, we took $72,000 a month of overhead off the top. Like, we're lean right now. But there's not one person that I could look at on that team that I could say that's a weak link. And if we have to cut back, those 2 people are going. To your point, the company right now, it's solid. We have good people on. My personality style, the one flaw I have is because for some reason, and maybe John, you're like this, but I'm able to see things and get things done. And if I get frustrated, and it's something I've been working on my whole life. This is like the transparency. I get frustrated to where if I have to go over something 2 and 3 times, and if they say they understand it and then they fuck it up again, like after the 3rd time, something snaps in the back of my head. I'm like, what the fuck don't you get? Don't tell me and yes me to death. Like, this is meant for us to get through it. I don't like and I don't appreciate, because you're wasting my time. That you understand, and then you go and you fuck the thing up. Like, just tell me you don't know it, and we'll be able to work through it. But I can't help you if you don't help me. So that whole piece right there, I'm 50 years old and I'm still working on it, brother. But you got to lead people the right way. You got to lead them by example. But I have that 3 strikes and then I kind of explode type of mentality.
Yeah, no, former baseball player. So 3 strikes, it frustrates me. And Chris could attest this. Prior to being in real estate, I was a financial advisor. So I was a stockbroker. So I had like 0 patience and like just complete asshole personality. Yeah. I've learned to, I get it that not everybody's going to understand it that quickly. But what does frustrate me, and I vent about it all the time, is just tell me I'm here for you. But like, don't let me do this and it's going to work. I'm telling you. But if you don't do it, I can't help you. If you're going to go your path and you're going to bang your head against the wall, I let people weed themselves out. I'm not paying them though, so it's a little different. So I say, fine, if you want to spend 8 months trying to figure it out on your own, go for it. But I get frustrated, but I don't want to say I don't understand. I just ask the questions and do what you're told. I'm more of you have it 2 ears, 1 mouth, so listen more than you talk. Like, listen to me. I've done it a couple times. Don't think you're smarter. Now, I'm not saying I'm the smartest, but if you're coming here to work for me or help me or implement something I'm giving you, you should probably listen, because I'm not putting someone in a position that I've never been in. And that's the part that frustrates me, is when people say, well, you're not doing it now, so, blah, 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 blah. But I think, I can relate to that significantly.
I'm open though. Like, I love guys and girls on my team. If they bring up an idea that they think it could increase the efficiency, save us money, do something better, like analyze something different. I am not the dictator, and I'm sure you're not either. Like, I'm open for open, honest feedback to take the company to the next level. So if anybody has an idea, bring it in. But I just get frustrated with people when they yes me to death and then they don't actually do the job. But I've learned also that when people fuck up and they made mistakes, my bookkeeper, who's with me now for years, she made a major mistake like 4 years ago, like $125,000 mistake. And I could have lost my shit and fired her. We got the money back, but it was a learning experience. Like, she learned a huge lesson that if I fired her, I'm going to have to bring somebody else in and train and go through this other bullshit. Like, she didn't come from a place that she did it intentionally. It was a mistake. It was a fuck up. And we found a leak in our system. But when there's opportunities like that, without freaking out, you grow the person. As long as they take responsibility and they're able to grow. Now, if it happens a second time, they're out. But I'm not a first-time strike. The guy made a mistake, or the girl made a mistake. Even if it's a big mistake, if it was a system process or hole in our process, it's our fault, not her fault.
No, I think that's important as any leader to take blame for, if there's a mistake and they understand it, if someone's doing something malicious, fuck you. But if it was a willing mistake and you could work with that person and fix it, they're probably going to be a better person. They probably won't make that mistake again. And if they do, yes, tough shit. That's super important, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you guys.
Yeah, I think too, especially now, as if you're in a business that's growing, you'd rather a $125,000 mistake than a $1.2 million mistake in 10 years. So if you can learn that now, even though I'm sure you got the money back, so it probably didn't hurt that much. But even if you lost it, probably would have hurt. But like you said, good chance they don't make that mistake again. People don't tend to forget, significant financial mistakes when it directly impacts them or the business they work for. So probably plug that hole up nice and good for the next, 10, 20, 30 years, or as long as they're there. So, that might be the type of thing you take on the chin and say, hey, it's going to play out over the long term where it's not worse in the future. So no, I think that's a great way to approach it. But I know we are coming up on our time. I thought this was amazing. We'll probably have to explore doing a second one maybe in a few months, because I think there's a lot of different avenues we could have gone towards. But thank you so much for coming on. If people want to learn more about you, follow you, get in touch with you, where can they do that?
Yeah, just go right to my website, billyalvaro.com, ALVARO.com. And on there, YouTube is on there, Facebook, LinkedIn, full contact information is on there.
Beautiful. We will have that in the show notes. Guys, thank you so much for listening. If you are not subscribed to the podcast, please do so. It means a lot to us. And if you are subscribed, please send it to a buddy that you think would like it. Billy, again, thank you so much for coming on. This was tremendous. And we look forward to doing the event with you on Sunday.
Appreciate you guys, man. I'll see you there.
Later, brother.